Oh, durka durka durka.
All right, so tonight I decided to make a video about a kind of a funny thing that everyone does with knives, and almost seems like they're ashamed of it, but they shouldn't be. This video is about fidgeting, and specifically, I wanted to break this down. I'm not an expert, but I wanted to break this down in terms of how I, as a random guy on the internet who messes around and gets these knives out at night and flicks them, think about this. And as background, these are not necessarily the best fidgeting knives in the world, because what I collect, just so everyone knows here, is cheap Chinese folders. Okay, I don't have many OTFs or automatics or US knives, and so just so you know, the scope of this video is basically things that are around $25 to $80 if you're interested in this stuff, and that's the range I'm talking about. So what are the actual, like, fine, we fidget with this shit, like, why? And there's different reasons different knives feel good in different ways, right? So the first thing I'd say is some knives just feel really good in your hand, okay? And I'm going to talk about this knife a little bit more later, but they just feel nice and smooth, and they it just feels like the right size for you. So this I'm going to call the feel in hand. Second thing is the drop. If it feels, I like a buttery smooth, I like to feel like I'm in control. It's not happening just pure gravity, but there's very little resistance. See how that happened? So that's the drop. You know, third one is kind of odd, because most knives that you're gonna handle are gonna have a lock of some mechanism, but this doesn't have a lock. This is a slip joint, and takes some double detent, takes some pressure to break this, just like it would take a little bit of, or force, not pressure, force to break it off. The first detent ball, here's the second detent ball. So this one's interesting because the cool part here is the disengagement, right? You can disengage the knife without unlocking it, and it's one motion. All right, so now let's get to the action. Sure, it feels great if a knife feels good in your hand, and if it drops, and if the disengagement is easy or fluid or whatever. But most people are going after the action of opening the knife, not the action, not the, I don't know, relief of closing it or whatever. Front flick. This is, to me, the most like tactile thing. You get your whole hand into it, usually your wrist. You can put a lot of pressure on it. And so if you're into that, really want to put force into it, front flipper. Of course, many knives are going to have thumb studs, multiple deployment mechanisms, but here's one. The thumb stud, it's got to fly out, okay? And also, you want to have one, usually you've got one on the other side too. You want to be able to use that. So thumb stud flickability is another aspect of fidgeting, depending on what you're working with. And last but not least, that was so coordinated, is flicking it. So to me, it's a very, the Spydie flick. So you're putting typically your the fingernail of your middle finger into the back here, holding on, having it in some kind of, so there's resistance, gripping it in your hand so that you can do this and put pressure, and then flicking it off. So this is, I'm going to call this the reverse flick now, or the Spydie flick. But I will also say that, just as a kind of a goofy side note, I do not like these kind of blade hole flippers with my thumb, because when you flick it, even if you get it like that, I just don't like the feeling of my thumb being kind of close to the edge. So to me, that's not like a way that I would ever fidget or like to do that. It doesn't feel comfortable. So I'm intentionally omitting that. All right, so now I want to review, actually to go into a little bit of detail about these knives. In case one of these fidgeting mechanisms, methods, whatever, you like, and maybe you learned something from this video about a knife that I like for this reason, and maybe it helps you improve your fidgety quality of life or whatever. Let's talk about the feel in hand. I'm a Miguron fanboy. Here's the Miguron Velona. Seems like this is the most like famous, not that this is a famous or well-known brand, but Miguron Velona, it's got a very kind of classic blade shape and just a very classic and classy feeling. But why is this thing, so for budget knives, again, this is budget Chinese folders, and my choices there. Everything is rounded off. These liners, so the liners are not nested, they're here, but they're round, they feel soft. And everything here, the pocket clip, there's no sharp edges, and it just feels good. The G10, actually this is great, G10, because it's got some grip to it, but it's still smooth. And there's no jimping here, which is fine. I mean, that could be a drawback, but it goes with the whole like smooth feel. So recommendation, if you like a knife that feels just really good to hold, whether it's open or closed, my recommendation, the Miguron Velona small. Well, the drop feels really satisfying. I don't know why, but the best knives that I have, the best knife I have for drop is this. The Vosteed Bellamy. I got this thing used. It's not technically a budget knife because, well, I got it for 60 or 70 bucks, but this is the M390 version with burlap micarta, and also this is really like, it's not the best micarta, but it's the most maybe useful because it actually has grip. But anyway, this is a great knife, and I'm sorry that this isn't a budget knife, and I've never held a the budget version of this. I'm assuming it'll be the same, because who cares if the knife is M390 or D2 in terms of the action. That's not going to affect it. But what we're talking about here is the Vosteed Bellamy. Man, that's smooth. Look at it one more time. Ching. All right, so usually we wouldn't talk about the disengagement as being necessarily part of the whatever visceral physical pleasure of fidgeting. Usually you're trying to disengage something, right? So it's nice if there's access to the lockup, if you're talking about a liner lock, or that the button, I don't know, that the button is raised the right amount and requires the right pressure. But usually it's more of a hassle factor or convenience, and you're not, I don't know, you're just trying to avoid it being annoying. This is different for me. This is the Kizer Mini Sheepdog as a double detent. So this is not a locking knife, right? So I can just take it and go burp. This is really cool though. Maybe, I mean, this is perhaps the second best folder I have for fidgeting, because it's made for that. The best folder for fidgeting is going to be a big surprise here, big reveal at the end. So I know you're all going to be super keyed in for that. But this thing, the disengagement itself is part of it, because I can press from here, By the way, it's kind of funny they have jimping because you that implies you can put pressure here, but you need to reinforce that with your index finger. So, and you need to know it could break the lock. But anyway, you can press here and press hard. So the flick is great, but we're talking about right now the disengagement. So you can take there's this little nub here along the swedge or whatever, and you can just put your finger there and just go burp. Really cool knife. Ooh, I messed up the flick. I watched a video about it on Duty Staggers. That's a good channel. And he had a lot of fun with it too, so I said, what the hell? And this one's good, really good. Okay, so let's get into the active stuff, right? Flicking stuff. Front flipping. So there's a lot of knives that are front flippers that aren't very satisfying in my opinion, because you're having to come from the side and it takes a lot of effort. Not this. So this is a cheap knife. The Miguron Takog is like a $30 knife, because this one's 14C28M, but it doesn't have the pocket clip. It's older, it's smaller, but you take your thumb. This isn't roll it across the front and hope. This is plant your fucking thumb right there and you push. And so it's a lot more, and there's jimping up here. So you get your thumb on that and you push kind of like southeast here. That thing is coming at maximum velocity, and it is a lot more satisfying. I'm going to talk about this in a second, but here's the Miguron Pagos II, and it's a perfectly fine front flipper. But do you see where my thumb is? I'm kind of aiming it here. It's going to come in the corner, and I'm going to roll it up, and that's fine. I just failed it, but. This one though, you put it on the top and you just ready to murder somebody. All right, well, I already brought this out, but for thumb stud fidgeting, the Miguron Pagos II. Let me get something out of the way. There's a million knives out there that have thumb studs. It seems like it's probably the most popular mechanism deployment, and everybody can, this the deployment with if you're right-handed with your thumb should be easy and satisfying and fast and all that. This is like table stakes, nothing special. I don't know. I guess I don't get a lot of differentiation between this and different knives, so it's always gonna be pretty good. The only problem would be is if the thumb stud is too close to the edge and you can't get in there and people complain about it. But as long as it's there and it works, it's always pretty good. Here's what's special about this knife. The reverse side thumb stud, you get your nail in there. It's nice and easily accessible. I think that this like milling out of the G10 probably helps. But there's this sound to it with this one. And there's something like, it almost feels like there's a spring or there's a vibration in it, and let me see if I can get this sound. Do it one more time. Right by that microphone. Anyway, the reverse thumb stud flick on this one is what makes this thing the shit. And then last but not least, the Spydie flick. I have a Spyderco knife. It's fine. I think that brand is overrated, but I do like that. I do like the flicking. So, and now you know I'm a Miguron fanboy. But the Keryx II, this knife is really cool. It's like not my style, so it's almost like something when you see some car or something, you're like, oh, that's really cool. It's not, I don't think exactly my style, but I can recognize it's super cool. Cool knife. The grind seems like it's almost hollow. And anyway, there's some interesting like grind lines and different lighting and surfacing here. Anyway, whatever, getting distracted. But the very satisfying to flick this, similar to the Pagos II. It has an extra kind of little ting to it that's very satisfying. I will say, as an editorial comment about Spyderco knives, they're very easy to flick, as they reverse flick as they should be. But I don't like how it's like actually like this edge on your. I think I watched some video. Somebody claimed it was to make it easier to flick. Whatever. I think they need to be rounded out a little bit, and so most knives are, except for Spyderco's, and therefore I like the reverse flick on. I just like the feel of it anyway. The quality isn't always as good as Spyderco, but I don't want to have to feel like I'm tearing up my skin. So this is a good reverse flick. All right, but this probably wasn't the best choice from a videography standpoint, but I want to have a best overall here. Something that combines all of the different ideas of how something feels and the drops, disengagement, front flipper, thumb studs, or thumb or hole, reverse flicker, reverse flipper. I guess I didn't mention that. That's fucked up on that. But anyway, this is the best fidgeting knife that I own. It is a clone, and I want to give there's most of the credit for the design of this and the fidgetability of it. It's a word. Should go to EMP EDC, the original designers, and this is called the Relative. On AliExpress, it is called the Beketen, or Beketen. How about Beketen? Feels so much better. F3 Overlord. This is on AliExpress. It is pretty easy to find. And I want to recognize both of them, but because this is such the action, you're not going to get that if it's poorly made, even, no matter what the design is. So the thing that's amazing about this knife, rear flipper, whoop, front, the Spydie flick, thumb flick, ring finger flick. And then try to do this before. This is a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure. Can I do the pinky flick on this? Get ready. Pinky engaged. Motherfucker. Yes. Cool. I didn't break off the tip. So anyway, all that to say that, you know, if you actually paid attention, I don't know why you would watch this bullshit all the way through, but this is an awesome fidgeting knife. AliExpress, I don't know, maybe 40, 45 bucks. I don't know. Who knows? But 14C28N and just a million different ways. I know the original also, I believe, did not have I believe the original EMP EDC Relative did not have a front flipper. So there are some little differences between the clone that might even make it better. I don't know. I've never felt the original. Who knows? I just know this is a damn good fidgeter. So in conclusion, the feel in your hand. Feel in your hand. The Miguron Velona. Feels good, huh? How about that? She feels pretty good in my hand. For the drop, one of the best I have is the Vosteed Bellamy. Disengagement is one that doesn't require a lot. So the old Kizer Mini Sheepdog, double detent. Front flipper, this Miguron Takog. Put your thumb into it, huh? That's pretty good. Thumb studs. Well, everybody can do the front, but how about the back? The Miguron Pagos II. Ding. We've got the reverse flick. the Spydie flick on a non-spider code knife. We got the whole side. We got a lot of Migurons. I'm sorry, but they're good knives. Looks great. And then the bell of the ball, this clone, a million different ways to waste time with your knife.